Um, Hello, guys. How are you doing today? Uh, I'm good as well. So, all right. So, it's been a while since we caught up. So, let's start by talking about your progress. So, how's your work going? When you say everything is done, remember that there are tasks that must be done as a group. For example, test cases. Can you recall when I mentioned that all test cases need to be brought together under one Excel sheet? If you have only completed your part, the others need to merge their work into the same sheet. So, do you understand? Then, once all the individual parts are merged into a single Excel sheet, it should be converted into a CSV file. You'll use this file to import the test cases into the Zephyr squad. Now, let's make it clear. How will I differentiate between test cases done by Group A and Group B? This is where the test case ID comes in. Okay. So here is a sample for format. I can show you like test cases, which is done by Group 1. Then test cases done by Group 2. So suppose Group 1 did the registration and login, and group 2 did the search, add to cart. So you modify the Excel sheet and create a CSV file and merge it into one file. So the test case ID can be uh, suppose QA1 PB T sheet, which is test case 001. The group B can name the test case as QA test B test course 002. Okay. So now uh, here's the next step after merging and uploading test cases. You need to identify any bugs during testing and prepare a defect report. Once the bugs are documented, sit together as a group and create a defect resolution report. Okay, so you can create a defect resolution report. So follow the structured approach I've shown you in the class, like test plan document, root cause analysis report, resolution tree structure. This will simulate real-world test scenarios and prepare you for the job environment. Then finally, upload your files into two stages. One is group-wise test case file, another one is final merged file. So each group uploads their individual test cases into the assigned folder on the platform. Once all test cases are merged into one file, upload this as well. So remember, those who stay on track will be better prepared for the job market. So keep practicing on your personal accounts and collaborating with your groups. Don't let delays hold you back. Um, so everything is clear now. Um, I have given a tutorial about setting up MySQL, so I hope you did that. The installation process is explained in the tutorial. But if you're still having problem, I'll upload two more videos. This will show you how to uninstall MySQL properly and reinstall it. You see, uninstalling MySQL isn't that easy. If simply uninstall it, the data still remains on your system. Excuse me. For example, uh, when you try uninstalling it, but when you reinstall it, it still didn't work. That's because leftover files and program files or other directories prevent the new installation from working properly. These files need to be cleared before you reinstall. Okay. Uh, Now let's check how to check. Now let's start how to check MySQL service. So let me show you. Open the Run dialog by pressing Windows plus R, then type services.msc, then press Enter. Then scroll through here and locate the MySQL here. If the MySQL service is stopped, right-click on here and click Start. It should change to running. If you don't see MySQL in the list, it means you have installed the wrong version or something went wrong during the installation. So in this case, uninstall MySQL, clear leftover data and reinstall. Even if you have installed MySQL, leftover data from previous installation can cause problems. Okay, so if MySQL is running, everything is fine. And if it is stopped, right click and select Start. Now let's move on to today's topic. Suppose you are in a registration form. Okay, it has fields like first name, register button, etc. What you see on the screen is the front end or the graphical user interface. For example, graphical user interface front end. It can have fields, buttons, etc. So there can be a continue, which can redirect you into a different page. So fields are the area where you input the information, such as text boxes for names or emails, for example, search bar on Amazon. And the buttons are clickable elements that trigger section like register or search. Clicking on the button takes you to another page or platform in action. So, for example, here you can see the page of Amazon. Here the fields are it allows the user to type information and the button which is continue uh, send the entered data to the backend for processing. Now there are three layers of buttons. Okay, one is the button, another one is API, and the third one is database. The button is the visible part that you click on the web page. Then the API is the bridge that connects the front end to the back end. And the database is the system where data is stored and retrieved. For example, in Amazon, there is a search box where you type keyword as a field. Then there is a search button which triggers the API. Then the API sends your search query to the server, retrieves the result, and displays them. And the database contains the products you are searching for. Notice that the URL changes when you click on the button. For example, on Amazon, after clicking search, the gray part of the URL changes, which represents the API endpoint. This API communicates with the server to process your request. Finally, let me show you how to navigate MySQL files. So you open your PC and go to the C drive. So go to C drive, then navigate to MySQL directory. Inside, you will find folders for database files and configuration. So, what is a URL? A URL or Uniform Resource Locator is what we use to locate a specific resource on the internet. It's the address you type on your web browser to visit a website. Think of it as the address of a house, but instead of leading to a building, it leads to a web page or a resource on the server. So, for example, you can say www.amazon.com slash SLP URL. So the base URL is the www.amazon.com. It is the main part of the URL. It tells you the name of the website or the server. In this case, it's Amazon. Then the API path is SLP. This part refers to a specific folder or resource of the server. It's like saying, take me to the book section in the store. And the last part are the parameters. They provide extra details or filters, like asking for books or in the mystery genre. These appear after the question mark. Now let's make it relatable. Imagine you are in a Walmart store. The store has multiple sections. So here is the store. It has multiple sections, like for cosmetics, jewelry, pharmacy, etc. When you enter the store through the door, it is the base URL or the main location. Then when you go through the book section, it is the API path. If you ask for mystery books, that's the parameters narrow down your request. So here you can say there are different parameters. Now let's talk about environments. As developer and testers, we often work with multiple environments before a website or a figure goes live. So, for example, there is www.amazon.com. It goes to www.devamazon.com. then www.seatamazon.com. So in dev environment, this is where the developers build and test new features. It's like the workshop, for example, like dev.amazon.com. Then in seed environment, we test how different components work together, like seedamazon.com. Then product environment is the final live environment where the end user accesses the application. For example, like www.amazon.com. So never directly test or experiment in the production environment. Any errors here will directly affect the user. That's why testing in the dev and city environment is crucial. All right, now that you understand URLs, let's connect them to API. An API acts as a bridge between two systems, allowing them to communicate. Think of it as a waiter in a restaurant. You tell the waiter what you want, then the waiter goes to the kitchen and brings back your order. In the context of a URL, the API path and the parameter represents the specific instructions you have given to the waiter. So you can see that. So you can see that in the Amazon web page, when you click on the parameter, the thing after the textbook slash are the parameters, which searches your interface queries. Now let's explore how this works in real time. Open a web page and right click anywhere, then click on Inspect Element or Inspect. This opens the developers tool. When you click on a button or perform an action, the website sends a request to the server. Let's trace that request. So when you look at the network tab, perform an action and like for searching for a book, observe that the URL is generated. Here you can see the base URL, the API path, and any parameters sent from the request. This is how the developers and testers debug and understand the communication between the front end and the back end. As testers, understanding URLs and APIs help us uh, f- help us in different functions. Like in backend functionality, does the server respond correctly to valid and invalid requests? In parameter validation, what happens when you change or omit a parameter? And in environmental consistency, is the feature working the same across dev, seed, or production? For example, if you remove a parameter like question mark E, does the server return an error or load the default results? These small details make a big difference in ensuring a seamless user experience. When you go to the inspect element, you can see the coding structure. When inspecting a web page, it is called HTML. The doc tab HTML tag signifies the start of an HTML document. HTML is also known as HTML coding or developer tools. Developers write HTML code to define how the interface will look and behave. When you inspect an element on a web page, you see the HTML code behind. Here, the developers write HTML to define the interface using colors, font size, and behavior buttons of or features. Do not use manual tools like paint or color brushes. Ah, everything is defined here through codes. And the testers focus on understanding the structure of the code and how it affects the graphical user interface. So you can ask, do testers need to learn coding? So the testers are not required to know deep developer level coding. Instead, testers need to understand basic coding concepts, learn their part of coding for testing purposes, focus on black box, white box, and gray box testing methodologies. Senior testers might learn more about developer coding. In HTML, the head is for developers containing metadata like style sheet or scripts. The body is for the visible content, sometimes used by testers for graphical user interface related tasks. Okay, so there are three layers of a button, I've said. Suppose there is a register button which is connected through API and HTML code. So in graphical user interface, the visible button, uh, it is a visible button that interacts with the customer. So it can define the feature's purpose, like here for the example register button, which allows the user to sign up. Then in API, it acts as a messenger between graphical user interface and database. It sends requests from graphical user interface to the database and retrieves responses. Then the HTML code is written by developers to build and define the features. When a customer clicks the button, the graphical user interface sends request to API. API communicates with the database and the database sends back to a response. And the user is directed to the desired place. Okay. Now imagine an online store. Okay. It is an online store. Here the database has shelves for different categories like books, groceries, toys, etc. A customer clicks on books, but it shows groceries. So, so you can say that there might be a bug or error in the process. Okay. Possible reason can be APM might not be connected to the correct table, and data might be misplaced in the database. Excuse me. So you check if the API is connecting to the correct table. You can conduct API testing to verify the paths and data retrieval. If the API is functioning correctly, then you can investigate the database. So, You can imagine that a tray is automatically retrieves items from the customer. Here, no human operators are present into this store. So the customer select books, but the tray brings groceries. The customer contacts to the customer care, who sends a helper, you can say a QA tester. The helper checks if the API is connecting to the correct table. If the API is functioning properly, but the issue persists, the helper checks the database. The database is like a large warehouse with thousands of shelves. So searching for the correct shelves manually is time consuming. Ah, okay. So let me show you. So suppose here is the database. So the database here knows the warehouse layout and can guide the helper to the correct shelf. Collaboration between the QA tester and the database ensures faster issue resolution. Okay. Now picture this. You are the new QA in a grand library, a library to be precise. The library is managed by a wise, somewhat grumpy librarian. So the database administration, which is the database administrator, he knows where every single piece of data is stored. Okay, uh, but doesn't have the patience to explain it every single time. So what does he do? He hands you a massive book and says, "Here, this book contains all the information about the shelves, the sections, and the books stored here. Everything is documented. Use it." So you can say this book is huge, thousands of pages. How do I quickly find which shelf has the book I need? So the administrator can say, read the book and figure it out. But hey, if you want a shortcut, there is a display section at the back of the book. So the display section is like the index of the book, but smarter. So the administrator says, if you know how to use the display section and enter the right code, like the shelf name and its color, you can instantly locate the exact book you are looking for. It's all about writing the queries. So you can ask queries, what is that? So think of queries like a small instruction or a question you ask the database to give you the exact data you need. For instance, if you want all the bookshelf on A2, write show me all the books from A2. If you want a specific types of books, say blue books, you can ask for those as well. The QA suddenly realizes that the display section is the key to efficiency. Without it, flipping through the entire book to locate its shelf or book would take forever. Now let's transition this story to what happens to the tech world. The library is the database. Okay, so the library is the database where all the data are stored. The bookshelves represents the tables on the database. Each shelf stores related types for all data. For example, a shelf labeled customers contains information about customers. So one can be customers, another can be orders. So the books, there are rows or records inside each table. Each book is a piece of data stored under specific categories, which is columns. The display section is where the magic happens. It represents a tool like SQL that allows you to communicate with the database to retrieve the exact data you need. When you use SQL, it's like interacting with the library display section. Let's see how to ask for information. So you open the MySQL workbench and go to connect to database. After selecting it database, click OK. Okay. Then use the your workbench preferences like SQL editor, then script editor, etc. So you want to see all the data. Here you can see there is a database called world. So you want to see all the data about the cities from the database world. So you should write this. Okay, I am showing you here, which is select space star space from world.city. After clicking run, it will show the cities, cities of the tables uh, containing containing the cities. So the select is like saying, "Hey, I need this some information." The asterisk means give me everything, like all columns. And from world.city means world is the library or the database, and city is the specific shelf, which is the table. And last, the semicolon tells the system I'm done with my query, execute it now. Let's say you only want cities in a specific country. So you can add condition like select star from world.city where country code can be USA. With this, you are telling the system, I need all data from the city table, but only for rows where the country code name USA. As a QA, you connect to the database server using MySQL Workbench tool. You navigate the database schemes, write and execute SQL queries to retrieve or analyze data. Then use the results to debug issues, verify system behavior, or create reports. SQL simplifies everything. Instead of manually searching through tons of data, you let the database to do the work for you with a simple query. So the journey begins for us for the QA to master SQL and make their job much easier. So here world and city means you want to retrieve the columns of the city from around the world database. Does this make sense? Then the semicolon means that you are done with the command. Now what you need to do is select it. You need to select all of it, like the whole query. Then copy the whole query and execute the selected portion. How are you going to execute the selected portion? There is an icon, you can see here, thunder icon. Yes, after selecting it, you are going to click on it. So it is like the command to execute it. It's going to give you the result if the command is correct. You will see it green and right correct. And if there is an error, you will see a red cross. Sometimes you may get a warning, which you can skip. But if you see a red cross and it's giving you an error, that means your command is wrong. So the error can come from either writing the command wrong or from information that is incorrect. Suppose you type something which is not available in the database. So when you execute it, it can say no database selected. Then select the database to be used by double checking its name. Do you understand my point? Alright. So the thunder icon is the execute button. Ah, now you see we can see the name, country code, district, population from the table here, right? Okay. Uh, Now let's go to another database which is called Shakila. Click on the table and what is a column of the table? For example, a column, not column. These are the tables, right? These are all the tables of what database? Shakila. Now, to get into Shakila, what we have to do? Uh, for example, the table is I want to do select star from actor. So you want all the information from the actor table, right? So the query is select star from actor. Okay. So let me show you here. Okay. So which table are you referring to? It is actor. Ah, so the city is part of the world database. Are we supposed to write city here? No, we are another database. So city is not in this database. City is another database which is world. We are in Shakila now, so it should be like this. Select star from Shakila.actor, then semicolon. Now let's select and run. You see here, all the name of the actor comes. There will be different things you will learn, a lot of different things, like how to retrieve the single column, how to retrieve the information of a specific row, how to modify, how to update, or how to add. You will learn codes for everything. I guess they seem fun, right? Now let me show you another way to get into the database. Do you see the SQL class in the first one? Let me show you. So now we will learn how to go into the database in another way. So let me show this. Another query for getting anything from a database, we can write use. What is use used for? You use means to get into the database. Now we are learning another way of getting into the database. In the select query we learned earlier, this is one way of retrieving data. But now use is another query for getting into the database. For example, I want to go into the world database. So use world semicolon. That means if I select and run it, it will go to the world database. Do you get my point? Now you want to see the information of the city table, for example. You want to see the information of the country. So what do? You write select star from country and then semicolon. Now let's run it. You see, if you are already in the database, you don't need to mention the database name again. When you use, you are already in the database. Do you need to mention the database name again? No. Now let's say you want a specific information. For example, you want only the unique country codes. When you ran this, you saw a lot of information like code, name, continent, region, surface area, population, etc. You only want the country code. How do you do that? So you write select code from country like this one. Okay. You see, even when opening a new tab, you are still in the same database. So you don't need to write the database name again. Let me explain the difference between the two files. Why did you go to the second file when we already had the first one? I just use different scripts for different queries so that you can keep it in your mind better. There's nothing complicated. It's not tricky. I'm just using different tabs for different purpose. Even if you are in different tabs, you are still in the same database. Alright, now I'll show you how to create a database. For example, let's say you want to create a database, Samia store. Can I make a database with your name? Now let's create this database. So write create database Samia store, then semicolon. Now after running this, how do you know if the database is created? You see the refresh option here. After running the query, click the refresh button and you will see the semester on the left side of your screen, right? Now you know a database is an object. We'll discuss this later. If you want to delete a database, use the drop command instead of delete. So to delete the Samia store of the database, you write this query, which is drop database Samia store, then semicolon. You can run it and click on refresh to see it's gone. Now in real world scenario, let's say you work for a software company. The company works with database from different companies. If someone asks you to write a database called Shakila and there are thousands of databases, it can be difficult to find it. So to avoid conflicts, we use a safer way to create database. So to create a database professionally, we use create database if not exists query. Okay. So let me show you like create a database if not exists automation. This avoids conflicts. After running it, refresh it and you will see. Lastly, if you want to delete it, you just use drop database QA automation. But we won't use if not exist for deleting. If you try to create world again, you'd get an error because it already exists. Let's try it out. You get a warning saying can create database world because the database already exists. So the professional way is always to use create world database if not exists. Alright, so I'll leave it here for now. We continue with the advanced level coding the next class. You will need to set up your SQL environment before that. I'll upload everything by tonight and you'll practice what we've learned today. Okay? All right. Thank you. And I'll see you in the next class. Take care.